last year I suffered a brain hemorrhage due to being on drugs, methamphetamine. Was on blood thinners, high blood pressure medicine, and I was just shut down at an instant. On May 18th, I was transferred to UCI Medical Center, and I was in a coma for, I believe it was 28 days. And then I was transferred to a rehab hospital. And I woke up and I had a voice box in my throat and a journal that I was blessed with from my daughter that she kept the whole time I was in coma. The only thing I can remember while I was in the coma is my uncle and my two aunts and my mom. And my uncle would come, he was dressed in in the Gordon fisherman outfit. And he would take me out to the ocean. He would drop me in the ocean. I was scared to death of water. I hated the ocean. And he would take me out there. Twice he did this. Then when I got to the rehab hospital and I woke up, and I didn't remember any of this until later on. But that was before that had happened. I didn't believe in God. I just, whatever. I can't see him. I didn't believe in it. But prior to that, I had blood clot in my lung, and then years before that, my leg had been ran over, and it's just been one thing after another. But all this time, it was like, who's God? You know, I just didn't acknowledge him at all. When I came out of the hospital this time, it was a whole different story. I knew that something happened in my life. I got out of the hospital, and 2 weeks after I was out, I called my uncle and I told him this story about going in the ocean. And that's when I found out he had become a minister. And he started crying and he said, "Baby, thank you for sharing that with me." He said, "You know, I'm a minister now." And I said, "No, I didn't know that." Then 2 weeks later, we lost him. And God took him home. But in the meantime, I went to see, this is 4 months ago, I went to see my doctor. And he said, "I don't know what your purpose is here in life." He said, "But God has a purpose for you because you realize that he's saved your life 3 times. The first time your leg, because all the veins in this side of my body feed off of this leg. He said, you should have been gone. He said, there's a blood clot in your lung. It should have taken your life instantly." He said, "Now the brain hemorrhage, you came out with nothing. You're perfect." He said, "You don't have, your speech is good, you don't have any disabilities." And I'm just like, okay. I didn't understand that. But when I came out of the hospital, I had to go and stay with my daughter and my son. They weren't going to let me go back to my home because I'd been with this man for 23 years, and he was still using when I came home. He said, "You're not going home until he goes into drug rehab." Well, when I was married, my ex-husband put me into some of the best drug rehab centers money could pay for. It didn't work for me. And when I came out this time, it was scary. And I went to church with my daughter. And finally I told my son, "Look, I have this figured out. I know the only thing that's going to save Ruben, the only thing that's going to save me is if we go to church. God is the only thing that's going to work for us this time." So we started going to church, and it's been May was a year, and I'm telling you, my life has changed so much. I hurt my son and my daughter. I rejected them. I wouldn't have nothing to do with my grandchildren. Just kept pushing them away, because I didn't want them to know I was doing drugs. I'm 57 years old. You know, and I almost caused my daughter and my son to lose their business because of the things that I did when I was doing drugs. And God's forgiven me. They've forgiven me. My son still has a hard time with it, but the Bible tells us that when you do, I'm not sure exactly where it's at, but you'll get 10 times back what you lost. And I know that my son has forgiven me, but I know in my heart that God is going to, that closeness that me and my son had will come back someday, because that's what God's promises. And it's just, I'm telling you, just if I can just save one person in here, all that I went through is worth it. Because without God, you have nothing. And all the hospitals, all the rehab centers that you could go to, it's not going to do what God can do for you. And I've been so blessed. It's awesome.
You forgot to mention that Ruben's been clean almost a year now too, and he didn't go to any drug rehab.
Yes, and yes, exactly. Ruben is the man that I've lived with him for 23 years. Our next step is marriage. We have to do that in order to be 100% right with God. And we're working on it.
Ruben.
And we're working on that part. But he's been clean. When I went home, he knew that I couldn't live there because the doctors told him if I did drugs again, I wouldn't live. So he's been clean for 9 months now. I've been clean for over a year, and it's all by the grace of God. Prayer, we go to church, and I wouldn't give the life I have now up for nobody or anything. Because God is just, I treasure my daughter. Before we had no relationship. My grandkids, I just treasure every minute I have with them. Before this, I had this brain hemorrhage, I could care less about them. I avoided my daughter because she could see right through me. And she would tell my son, and he'd say, no, she's not mentioning that. Well, I hurt him very deeply. And like I said, he's forgiven me, God's forgiven me, but he still hasn't forgotten. But in time, our relationship will come back stronger. And I believe that with all my heart, and I trust in God. God made us that promise, and that's what keeps me going on that. And there's just so much more that I have to say. I don't want to take up all your time.
You have an hour, so you can share whatever you like. You know, you said you came out of the hospital and you knew it was God. What changed your mind?
Well, just because when I went in there, I didn't believe in God. And I knew there was a God, but my thing was, why can't we see him? Where is he? You know, and it just, the whole thing with my uncle, and then I remembered this has just been a few weeks ago that I shared this with the elders from our church. And I told them, I said, you know, I remember seeing this big gold angel somewhere, and I had looked through pictures, and I had searched through things at my home. And finally, I went to one of the elders at the church, and I said, look, I don't know where I seen this. He said, and he told me, did you ever think maybe when you were in your coma you saw this? I never even thought about that. So, just, God has just moved in my life and changed me, and it's just a wonderful. But you know, if you just trust in him with all your heart and believe, you will, he can change anything. It doesn't matter what you've done wrong in your life, God's there for you. Yes, it's so powerful.
I look around and we are all different. You know, we all come from different walks of life, construction workers, office workers, you know, more mature people. But we all are hurt. We all are broken. We're all looking for that answer. And I think we've searched and searched for years and years, and he's been there the whole time. The whole time.
Yes.
And he works for all of us. And you know, I was just telling Dwayne outside, I said, isn't it crazy that what works, there's not another place like this around here. You know, but this is the only place that's going to work. That's even, you know, God's the only thing that's going to work.
And I've been trying to figure out, you know, I know that God has a purpose for me. If he wouldn't have saved my life 3 times, especially this last time, what is my purpose? What do you want me to do, God? And I've been praying, Lord, direct me, guide me. What is my purpose? What did you save me for? And I've come to my daughter's work several times, and I always seem to pull up right in front here. And I look and I watch people come in and out, and I'm just like, whatever. Then yesterday I seen somebody walking out, and I just, hey, you, come here. And so I asked him, I said, do you do testimonies here? And he's like, why did you ask me that? I said, because I have a testimony here. And so he brought me in, and he introduced me to you, and I asked you, and I'm like, maybe this is my purpose, to give testimony, to share what I've been through.
Yes.
And if I could just save one person's life, that everything I've gone through will be worth it. And I'm so blessed to be alive today. Very blessed.
So we share a lot in here about our purpose and trying to find that purpose, because we know God has given each one of us in here a gift, a purpose to be used, not to die and never use it. I mean, what's God going to think when we go up to heaven and He's like, "What you do?" I'm like, well, I just put it over here and I didn't do anything. It took a lot of courage to sit up here and to walk through those doors, not knowing if this was what God wanted you to do. And it's just awesome.
But,
It really is.
but to me, it was worth taking the chance, because I feel like God moved me to do this.
And it's listening to that, guys.
You have to
Listening and
listen to
saying,
that little voice up there.
and just being obedient, even though when you don't know the answer. Being obedient.
Do you plan on joining us regularly or stopping by?
I can stop by periodically.
Good. That's awesome. I did see you. I had no idea what was going on. And when I came back in, I said, oh, here we go. This is our surprise. And I just remember your face walking in the door yesterday. But I just want to say thank you. And it's awesome the way that God moved in your life. You didn't know Him.
No.
And He had to lay you down for 28 days to show you. And you woke up with the power.
Yes.
The power. And thank God you were at least able to tell your uncle
Yes.
that you had became a Christian before he passed on.
Oh,
Could
it
you
was
imagine what
wonderful.
joy he left the earth with?
Yes.
Knowing that his niece is going to be okay.
Yes.
Your daughter's here. And I'm asking her, are you the daughter? She's like, yes. And that's awesome. And your son will come around. He will
Oh,
start
and I
to
believe that with
break.
all my heart. And, if I didn't have that belief that I have now, I would have went right back to drugs and drinking, and I would have destroyed my life, because this one and my son, they are the most precious people in my life to me.
Wow.
And I still hurt because of what I did to my son, because we don't have that closeness, that bond we used to have. But I know that was my doing. But like I said, what keeps me going there is God's promise that He will bring that bond back stronger than it was before. And that keeps me going.
Is this the first place you shared your testimony yet, or have you shared it anywhere else?
Oh, I've shared it with our church. With our elders.
To other places in,
This is the first place that I've gone outside the
Come on,
box.
Hope.
yeah, but you plan on
Come on,
finding other
Yes,
places
I do.
that's-
Amen.
Because I think that's what I believe in my heart. This is what God wants me to do.
And it's awesome when you share with your church. So that gives everyone else who has a testimony to start saying, I want to testify.
Yes.
I want to get my things out of my life. You're awesome.
Thank you
You are
so
awesome,
much.
Yolanda.
Thank
Yes,
you
you
so
are,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you very much.
She's awesome, Krista.
She is.
Thank
I have
you.
a question, more maybe for you. You're a Christian,
Yes.
and so how